You're watching Channel 36's Power News live at 5. We've got the most high school sports, the most lottery numbers, and the most weather in the Tri-Swamp area. It's news time.
Good evening, I'm Brenda Rose.
And I'm Slade Austin. 2 prisoners have escaped from the Coral Palms Sheriff's Station in a daring daylight jailbreak.
The sheriff's office is coordinating their search with local and state police.
If you're watching, Greg and Larry, and I know you are, my men and I will not rest until we find you.
Strong words. And moving on, what if you were going through a drive-thru and a puppy dog took your order?
TBTL.
Did you enjoy my broadcast?
What makes you think I listened to it, Doctor?
If I hated a program as much as you hate mine, I'd probably listen out of sheer malicious spite.
Are you on the computer? Yes, I am, but I'm having trouble with my computer. I had a computer for 10 years and enjoyed it, but it died.
Yeah, I just want to say it was a beautiful service, but you and I both know you wouldn't have gotten those laughs if you weren't a pastor.
I'm sorry?
Oh, it's no big deal. I don't care. I'm just saying you're not actually funny, so don't feel proud about today.
People grieve in their own ways, son.
No.
I just want to say a beautiful service.
Thank you.
I hope you don't think you're deserving those laughs.
No, I just told him. I just told him. I just gave him a heads
it's
up.
the worst kind of hack there is.
Beautiful service,
But
though.
Beautiful.
What do you say we go out and get some Carvel?
I got the time if you got the diapers.
All right. Hello, good morning, and welcome everyone to a Tuesday edition of TBTL, the show that just might be too beautiful to live.
Are you sure?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
My name's Luke Burbank. I'm your host.
The guy is a nut bar. A nut bar.
Coming to you from the Madrona Hill studio, perched high above the mighty Columbia on a foggy day.
Cloud fog.
I was like almost tempted to turn on the pellet stove this morning, which doesn't seem right. Sorry, but that just doesn't seem right here on the last day of June the 30th. We've still got the Poodles hanging out here in southern Washington with us.
I say, what's up, dog?
But not here in the studio today. I had them out here before the show. I was doing some work, getting ready for things. But someone named DJ couldn't be trusted to not continuously bark at anybody who was driving nearby. And so they had to go in the house. I'm out here, though. That's the good news. I'm out here by the microphone ready to bring you episode 4,760 in a collector series.
Let the fun begin.
There was a story briefly published by NPR this morning on their website, which was wildly incorrect. It said Samuel Alito, the Supreme Court Justice, was stepping down.
I'd like to point out to anybody watching, this is really bunk journalism.
And while that would have been big news, it was apparently not the case. And we'll try to figure out how exactly that happened. Here on a show that never, ever brings you bunk journalism, only the most unbunk of journalism. And a guy who's a big part of that is this dude, longest-running Cobra of the show, maybe best known for his depictions of the tall ships. He's got one question on this Taco Tuesday.
Is it too early to get a fish sandwich?
He's Andrew Walsh, and he's joining me right now. Good morning, my friend.
Good morning, Luke. I don't know if I agree with your policy decision. I think a little... Listen, the payoff of having a dog or two in the studio versus, and if they have a little barking here and there, does that really ruin the experience? See, look, you play the
great.
You know what?
I mean, there's an irony to that, but see, I control that button.
Yeah.
I have to say, yesterday, it was at some point it made me feel a little stressed. I know what you mean. It's a theater of the mind. It's also critically, it's fun for you because you and I are looking at each other on a video link, and you could see these cute dogs kind of doing their thing in here. But I literally had them out here at from 9 to 10, and I was getting ready and everything. And every time, because I kind of live in this sort of quasi cul-de-sac, every time some little delivery truck or thing would go down one of the driveways towards someone's house, DJ would just start barking like crazy. And it just felt like it was going to make me feel anxious during the show.
No, I totally understand that. I really do totally understand that. But I miss seeing those doggos now. Is today your last day with them? When are
tomorrow,
they going home?
They're going back. They're going down to Portland tomorrow, and then they're going to be going. I don't know how exactly they're getting from Portland to Salem, but eventually maybe they're just turning them loose. But they're pinning notes to them. I think Becca is going to pin their home address to the back of their collars and give them a little bindle and just send them south.
I like that. And your reaction to yesterday's story and the breathtaking
It
photo
was,
of a
in
dog
fact,
on a
how
roof.
I'll just call him brother-in-law Jeff and sister-in-law Darcy. It was how they learned that one of the dogs jumped off the roof.
Okay. See, I was a little confused about that when you said Jeff and Darcy yesterday. It wasn't their dog, though, right? It wasn't a
their
Gigi
dog,
that was out?
DJ.
Yeah, it was fine.
And I understand why it's confusing. Yes.
No, so they know, but what about the actual, this is Becca's parents' dog who is on the
Becca's
roof.
mom's dog, and
Yeah.
I think I think we've all decided that there's no reason that Sudell needs to know about.
That's
Gigi
what I
jumping
was
off the
asking
roof.
yesterday. Not about. I mean, okay, the family knows now, but I wanted to know how the people who actually are the caregivers
Well,
of this
because
dog.
here's what can we further complicate it?
Yes, please.
Gigi lives with Jeff and Darcy primarily because Sudell is living in a retirement home.
Oh, I didn't realize that. Okay.
And that's not really a dog-friendly place. So technically, it's her dog. But in the way that Bubbles is technically my cat, but doesn't live with me.
Okay, yeah. I mean, families
it
are
takes a village.
Families are complicated, you know. I
They
like
sure
it's
are,
a modern
Andrew.
world. There's nothing wrong with
But
that.
for Jeff and Darcy, who I consider to be sort of
Sure.
de facto Gigi's
Yeah, that makes
parents now,
sense.
because they're the ones. Gigi lives with them most of the time, right?
Yeah.
They
that totally
found out
makes
about
sense.
Gigi jumping off the roof from this podcast.
Yes,
yesterday.
yes, and their reaction was
Jeff sent me a text at 10:16 p.m. That was the most crazy dog story ever. Made for quite the podcast episode.
It really was interesting.
But
And
I was
again,
like,
that photo.
thank God he wasn't like, hey, could you tell me next time you almost kill my dog?
Yeah, right. Instead of
That
just
was
like
not his
complimenting the
response.
programming. I like that. That's great. This, Luke.
Yes.
Belle. Where's Belle? Here's Belle.
Okay, I got one too.
This is our idea. When
Our
we
$1 million
have to
idea?
break, it's not going to earn us any money, but it's going to save us some emotional capital and relationship capital. When we have really bad news to break to people, we do it on the podcast. Then we send them the podcast if they're not regular listeners.
No, we don't send it to him, and this is why it's the perfect crime. We break the news on the podcast where we don't have to actually sit with the person and hold space as they're getting the information. And then if they don't hear it, it makes them a bad friend because they weren't listening to our show.
Yeah. Oh, and then you can say,
So
well,
like years later, they're like, how did I not hear that the dog you made the dog go full moon door on it?
Yeah, right.
And it's like, what do you mean? I told you. When did you tell me? On the show that I work on 5 days a week. Oh, I see who doesn't listen to the podcast.
I guess you're not listening to the podcast. I thought we were building something here. I like
so now suddenly they're in trouble for not hearing the bad news.
Did I ever tell you? I don't think I did because it's a little bit sensitive, but like, who am I protecting? I won't use her name and nobody will ever figure it out. But so you know that I was not exactly a man with a lot of experience in love in college, right? And I had a couple of short-term, I don't even know if you would call them girlfriends. I dated a couple of girls here and there for short periods of time. Until then, after college, I met Genevieve and just locked it in for 25 years. We had mentioned that on the show recently. It's going okay. But one of these girls I had a big crush on, and somehow she found out, and she was interested as well. The problem was she had a boyfriend back home. I don't think I've ever told you this.
This is some real...
But we followed our hearts anyway, and I knew about the boyfriend or whatever, and so that's not something I'm not super proud of that whole thing. I think eventually, whatever, I'm sure it all worked out.
I kind of tend to
young
think
people.
like freshman year relationships, college stuff when there's like, you know, I think that kind of stuff is fairly standard. You know, you got somebody back home who you kind of have something going on with from maybe high school, but like what really are the levels of fidelity that we require from people.
Yeah, and of course, you know, somehow when you're in that situation, you can sort of demonize him somehow. I don't know how I have any standing there, but whatever. All of that is to say, I mean, the fact that I even told you that part, it's really not even relevant to the story. Other than it's just a weird thing.
And by the way, it worked.
I mean, is that a flex? I don't feel great about it, to be honest with you, but. I liked this girl. She had really cute hair. And if you have cute hair, I'm going to tell you, girl, you got cute hair. And I liked her. But as we kind of, continued to liaison, I realized that her way of kind of dealing with emotion, she was like somebody who was really wanted to be in touch with our feelings and stuff, but maybe didn't feel comfortable expressing them. And so she had a diary. If I ever told you this, and she would sometimes make me, or at least once. I say sometimes. I feel like it was more than once, but it was kind of like,
I think once might be more than enough.
Well, I wrote about us, and I want you to read it. And I think she was in the room. I'm just like, am I freaking doing this? Am I reading
Wow.
a diary entry you wrote about us in front of you because this is how you want to express? And again, we were freshmen in college, like whatever. It was the 90s. Like it's just like we're little alt
Daria
kids.
was the #1 show.
Yeah,
on
exactly. I mean, that's actually the perfect. Like, we're little alt kids. Like, it is what it is. But like, I just like for the rest of my life, I'm just like, yeah. Here, I wrote about my feelings about us and where we are. And now I want you to read it as my way of expressing it to you. That was not. It was not a comfortable way of communicating with me.
Yeah, that seems like that would be very intense. I wonder if there's something about there just would have to be something about being that age too, where the drama, which doesn't need to be so high, is so high. I remember my college girlfriend, who I had started dating like kind of shortly after the birth of my kid. Who I told her, I was like, hey, I'm interested in you. We met at church, and I was like, I'm very interested in you.
But my seed is strong.
Yeah, seriously. And also, I mean, we were Christian kids, so in that particular relationship, there was no danger. There was no danger of any unplanned pregnancies. But I just remember saying, I have to tell you, I have this huge crush on you, but I also have to tell you that like I'm going to be having, or either I just had a baby 5 days ago, or I'm going to be having a baby in 5 days. And she rolled with that, and we dated for a few years, or a couple years. And it was a very serious relationship in my mind. But when I think about it, and I have to this day a tremendous amount of affection for this person. I mean, she's just a really, really good person in the world, and somebody who I'm a great admirer of. But if I think about that relationship, it was mostly sitting in cars, having like 3-hour conversations about the relationship, or sitting in dorm rooms having 3-hour conversations. Like what I associate with that relationship the most is watch like a movie being over, a DVD being over, and then the DVD screensaver bouncing.
Oh my God.
As we're like in hour 2.5 of some circular relationship-based conversation that's never going to be resolved. Like that just seemed to be, and I want to say this person is not like a high drama individual or somebody who's emotionally like broken or anything. I mean, if anything, she was a lot more and remains a lot more stable than I am. There's just something about being that age, I think, where you're just having all these big feelings and you're not quite really an adult yet, but you kind of feel like you are. And I just associate it with a lot of long, drawn-out relationship-based conversations.
It's funny. I might be conflating this, but in my memory, this time where I was supposed to read her diary was after we had gotten done watching Forrest Gump on her tiny little television in the dorm room. And by the way, still the only time I've seen Forrest Gump. I had no interest in it before then. I watched it. I didn't think it was that great, but again, was watching it with her, probably just like a little distracted. And I don't mean that in a horny way. I just sort of mean like, whatever. We're watching this thing, probably talking about stuff. And then I feel like that movie ended. We didn't have the DVD bouncing around because I think it was a VHS tape. And then I'm pretty sure that's when she wanted me to like kind of read a page from her diary to kind of get a better understanding of where we were vis-a-vis her feelings towards me and fella back home, wherever that was.
Was that kind of was that the beginning of the end of the liaising? Was that kind of like in your mind where you're like, okay, I'm going to do this, but I'm going to read this diary, but then I'm going to start to sort of formulate an exit plan?
I don't know. I can't answer that, honestly. It was just a long time ago, and I just remember there were just various things, and there was something about her that was very, and again, I mean, I assume that she's lost track of me. I mean, there's a chance that she's like a secret listener or something.
I would say,
yeah,
this is the perfect place, because if she's not listening, that's on her.
What? How did I already forget my whole
perfect place for
plan?
you to air any and all grievances.
She was, and again, this could have to do with age. It could have to do with maybe she's still like this. I don't know. But she was kind of I don't know, man. I want to say dramatic, but then that literally implies high drama. And I guess she was just a little dramatic. But it's also like you said, like it was also the age of this stuff. Like that is part of it. Like I know we've said this on the show before, but when I think about the hormones that were going through my body then, I'm scared. Like, I think if somebody came up to me right now with a vial and a syringe and said, these are the hormones that you had when you were 20 years old or whatever it was, 19, I'm gonna inject these in you. I'd be like, don't. Like, I cannot handle that right now. I will just shoot to the moon.
I know. I mean, honestly, like not to make this not to sort of root this conversation in the current day or make it like more serious than it needs to be, or also more geriatric than it needs to be. But I think about that kind of a lot lately, which is just like how different I am in the world as a man who is 50 and definitely has decreasing testosterone and libido and just like, you know what I mean?
But it's not just, but it's also, I just want to say this because I think you agree. We're not just talking about sex. We're not talking about sex drive. We're just just the emotions, the ping ponging of emotions all over the place.
Absolutely. And it's, you know, even with like Becca, I try, well, here's the other thing, you know, the kind of like, if I can say lore of me, which is actually being pretty sort of self-aggrandizing, but the lore around my life, at least as I saw it and as I repeated it often to people in my like 20s and 30s and pretty much my 20s and 30s, I think it started to peter out in my 40s, but it was like guy who drinks insane amounts of alcohol, gets into bar fights, like is very sort of like
a real Elvis Mitchell.
Yeah, precisely. Kind of just like a lot of just. And I think that first of all, I think that those were, back then it was bad and a bad idea and something that I should have worked on harder. But instead I tried to sort of, in a way, integrate it into the legend, as somebody I used to date would call it, La Leyenda de Bigotti Bourbeau, the legend of Burbank mustache.
I wonder who that was.
I wonder, yeah, well, careful listeners might be able to deduce. But
I did not know that, by the way. That's funny.
But it's fun. What's funny is like I still will sometimes I kind of like either describe myself that way or reference it, and the people who have only known me for the last 5 years of my life cannot picture that because it's not who I am anymore, and I can't just like I'm both glad that that's not who I am. I'm glad that I'm not trying to fight people in bars and fight bowling alley managers. Like I'm relieved that that's not me, but also it's like. Yeah, but I used to have a lot more get up and go. I used to have a lot more vim and vigor, just generally speaking. Again, this is not all. Listen, it's fine in the bedroom. I don't want anyone getting any ideas.
Oh,
but
and guys, she'll like it too.
But like, I've got to have a lion growl sound effect around here somewhere, which I feel like it's really the.
I don't even know if I was doing
all I have
Law Tigers for Men.
I just have a goat sound effect. That's as close as we're gonna get.
I don't even know if I was doing a men's clinic ad there or the Law Tigers.
It's all part of the same. It's all part of the same bullshit. But you know what I mean? It's like what I basically need to understand is that I'm not that person anymore who was fighting people outside the Mandarin Gate, and that's okay. Even though it's in a way it means that I'm kind of, I don't want to say losing part of myself, but it's just that's what happens in life. We change, we progress. Again, nature is taking care of this progression for me a little bit.
Yeah.
But like I got to stop telling those stories because they seem like I'm just making shit up. Like if you're somebody who works on Livewire, okay, and you hear me talking about like duking it out in the Mandarin Gate, you'd be like, this guy is a compulsive liar. Like it would be impossible for them to square the concept of me as they know me and a person who would behave the way that I used to behave.
But you also have photos of you with a broken nose. So, although that was not from a fight, I guess that's a little bit of a misnomer.
That was from,
but it represented that. It represented that era.
It very much did. I mentioned at the top of the show that we're going to do a bunk journalism check. Although I don't want to overstate it, we're going to do a journalism check regarding NPR. But there was some unbunked journalism that was going on, as I understand it, last night in Redmond. At Brick and Mortar, a bookshop where you were interviewing your friend Eric Moskowitz about his new book, and you had, a certain amount of anxiety, but then also a heavy dose of preparation going in. How did it all go?
It went really well, and also I'd really appreciated there were a bunch of 10s who came out, which was nice.
Hell yeah.
I was trying to do the math before
you
and I started
readers,
talking.
Really. You're saying some of our listeners are book enjoyers.
That's why they were there. They're like, just tell me the story of the book so I don't have to read it. And I said, hey, you're speaking my language now. But no, it went really well. I think I maybe said this to you on the show. Maybe it was off air, so I'll repeat it. But it really helped that this book was really good. And I'm not just, you know me, I'm not like a salesman. I'm trying to think, was I saying this to you recently, or maybe I said in the newsletter? Like, I am not somebody who goes around advertising my friend's work if I don't think it deserves it.
If anything,
I literally don't have it in me. You know what I mean?
If
I'm more of a
anything, you've really
negger.
tried to kind of silence all of my Livewire stuff.
Well,
And,
exactly.
in fact, you've gone around taking down our flyers when we're coming to Seattle. Like, I find that actually kind of hurtful.
Hey, you have your street teams, I have mine.
You don't have to like
they're
the
at
show.
war.
You don't have to like the show, but I think making it harder for us to draw a crowd, I think, is kind of uncool.
I saw a Rachel Bell poster in the Rudy's Barber Shop the other day.
Fun.
Speaking of street teams, in fact, I texted her a photo and she did not respond to me. Is she too big for me now?
Boo.
Oh, boo-hoo for me. No, but it did go really well last night, and I think I count. So, first of all, it was a decent-sized crowd. Like, they had to bring out extra chairs. I'm not good at counting the numbers. I also found myself looking more to my side while I was talking to Eric about his book, and I wasn't looking out as much, but I think somebody estimated at 30 to 40 people, which is like a really good turnout for that.
That's great. Monday night at a bookstore in Redmond? Heck yeah.
And the person who was running it, this person named Rachel, was telling us that, they had to bring out extra chairs, and Rachel said that, like, this is a bigger crowd than we hardly ever get or whatever. And so I do think that speaks to the book. I'm not obviously taking credit for that. It speaks to a lot of different things, but Eric is a natural talker about this stuff. He's so passionate. He researched this book for 5 years, so there's plenty to talk about. And I think I was starting to say that I told you at one point, like, some of my nervous energy went away with a couple of things. First of all, finishing the book. I was just really nervous that I wouldn't get, because I'm such a slow reader and there's just a lot going on in my life right now. I was just like, I just need to get this thing done. When I actually got to the last page, I was like, okay, I've read it all. There's not going to be anything that surprises me. And I also really enjoyed it. So when I got done with the end of it, I'm like, I could talk to him for 3 hours about this. Like, I just over beers, So that was my attitude. The other big thing for me that was a bit of a stressor leading into it was I going to have to do an introduction? Like, was I going to have to be the person to say, hey, welcome everybody, this is Eric and his book is about this, and give a bio
or something? Almost the most stressful part of it, particularly in a room that size, is like getting everyone's attention.
Exactly.
Like, whenever I do an event where I'm emceeing it and there's like a crowd and they're supposed to come to their tables and everything, I always try to make someone else do that part of it and then introduce me, because I hate standing up there just trying to tap dance while people are just kind of focusing up.
Yeah, and so I wrote to Rachel, the person who, and I don't think they own the bookstore or anything, but I think they're running this event. And Rachel said, no, I'll do that. I'll introduce you both. We sent in bios and everything. And so that was exactly what I needed. So all I needed was somebody to hand the baton, and then I can say, hey, Eric, wonderful book. Let's start talking about it. You know what I mean? And so that took off a lot of stress. Like I said, I was talking to you off air. We've had some other stressors in our life regarding basement projects and just various things going on that also just sort of distracted me the past few days and like sort of made me more stressed out about other aspects of my life. So that sort of helped a little bit. And so I actually, and also like Eric and his family picked me up and we all drove there together. So it's kind of nice just to be with him and them in the car, and like it wasn't like walking into this place cold by myself. And then as soon as I was there, I saw listener Alyssa was there. She brought me a little bag of goldfish. I thought that was really sweet. And
Finally, did she have a couple of Fig Newtons with her too?
No. And I was like, oh, thanks for being here. And she leaned over and she kind of like almost hissed in my ear, I'm here to watch you crash and burn. Wow. And I was like, wow. That is a really cool
Challenge
thing
accepted.
To say, but I also took it as like that put a chip on my shoulder for me.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I'm not going to give
they
Alyssa
call that's locker room material.
Yes, exactly.
You posted it. You went back into the locker
bulletin
room.
board material, right?
Yeah, there you go. Bulletin board material.
And I said, I'm not gonna fail in front of Alyssa. I'm not gonna give her what she wants. And so I just did my damnedest. No, of course it was actually I'm saying that because it didn't occur to me what I wanted going into that room, but it really was so nice to see a friendly face right away. I went in, I set down my paperwork on my little computer, or I don't think I used my computer, but set down some papers that I had printed out, very Luke Burbanky style. I wasn't going to, trust a computer. And I also thought it'd be nice not to have
pull no Jason Bateman bullshit. You're trying to read off your iPhone. You can't open the PDF.
And so
we're professionals.
And then Alyssa was right there. And so I was able to just like for the, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, whatever it was before it started, I wasn't just milling about somewhere in the corner of the bookstore getting in my head or whatever. So all joking aside, I did appreciate seeing her and everybody there who showed up. And again, I I was trying to do some math. I think maybe at least 6 people came up to me and said hello, and I knew them from, TBTL land or whatever, and the whole thing, it went really well. And so, and again, I'll just say the name of the book again. It's called The Hardest Longest Race. And talking to Eric afterwards, like, the state of publishing is so ridiculous now, Luke. What these authors have to do to try, especially post-pandemic, like, he's just getting like zero support from like any kind of publicity arm or whatever. In fact, in some cases, and this is a major imprint, this is a major publisher. I think this is Macmillan or something. And so the fact that they're actually almost getting in the way of some things that he had set up personally, he has to just do this all by himself. So while I know that I expressed a little bit of anxiety and hesitation, and when this first kind of was a possibility on my radar, and I was really hoping that he would find somebody else to do it. I'm glad I did it. It was a really good experience. It doesn't. Somebody said, maybe it was Rachel at the bookstore, like, "Oh, your first one as if I have a thirst to do more of these." I don't feel that way, because I feel like every time you do something
that
like
was
this,
actually
you're
gonna
still
be my
like,
question.
it's
Do
not
you
like
think-
I have a thirst for it or that I think I'm particularly good at it. I was just glad that it wasn't a Burien town hall disaster from 10 years ago.
That would suck for anybody.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think that was you.
I don't even remember. Do you know that I don't even remember what I'm embarrassed about that anymore? I'm just embarrassed about it. This is a town for folks who don't know what I'm talking about. The reason I hesitate for these things was I was working at Cairo, and somebody asked Dave Ross to household name in the Pacific Northwest as far as a man who knows kind of politics and local politics, the man that you would want to host your candidate forum. He was not able to host a Burien candidate forum. So they asked me, his producer, or maybe I was hosting the nighttime show at the time. I was like, I guess this is what people who host radio shows do.
Yeah.
I can handle a Burien town hall. And it turns out, narrator, he couldn't.
Well,
so I remember just
first
being
of all, that's
so
much harder.
embarrassed.
That was so much harder than doing a town hall involving the 2 national presidential candidates or the Seattle mayoral thing. It's because there is the news that if you're working in the news biz, there's the news that you're generally steeping in and the people that you generally know. Let's say it was a debate between Katie Wilson and Bruce Harrell or something. That's going to be so much easier than the Burien City Council or whatever's going on in Burien, because first of all, you don't know all the issues. You're trying to learn the Burien issues. You don't know the candidates. You don't know their personalities. You don't know the things that it's just like, that's just so much for you to try to have an understanding of, and then go down there and then kind of traffic cop it and whatever. I mean, that would suck for anybody. Do you know what and you're talking about how you don't even remember what happened. You just have a feeling of embarrassment when you think about it. You know what my version of that is to this day. And I know that I've told this story before, but when I worked as the intern at KUOW, there was a fax that came through that was put together by a group that I think was called Puget Sound Keepers, which, interestingly enough, I think Sound Keepers was a kind of a sort of a loose nationwide organization of basically groups that worked to preserve marine life and marine habitat. I think RFK Jr. was big on it was big in this back in the day. He had a moment where his whole thing, he was river keepers. He was a river keeper. This was sound keepers. But I do think there was some association between these groups that wanted to keep, marine areas, healthy. And it was advertising something called, I think it was called Oyster Fest. And it was at that Daniel's Broiler that we went to once.
Yeah.
That was when you found out that
Daniel's
you were going to be
Broiler,
filling
yeah.
in on Ron and Don, I believe.
Yep.
I think it was before it was a Daniel's, it was some other place just like that, but it was more like seafood oriented or something. Mm-hmm. So basically this thing was like Oyster Fest, and it's a big fundraiser for sound keepers, but it's a bunch of local celebrities coming down and taking part in an oyster eating contest.
Oh, okay.
And so it was like,
this seems, so far this seems very much up your alley, but you're very young.
I'm 21 and I'm the work study student at KUOW. I'm not even occasionally on the air. I could not be more anonymous, at that place. And in the world of Seattle, there is literally no one who has heard of this media personality that is Luke Burbank, because I was not a media personality yet. But because my because I had the confidence of a much younger woman, I ripped that thing off the whatever, and I'm like, is anybody going to do this? And Steve, I think it's like Steve Scher or something, goes, I don't know, you could do it. Why don't you tell them you'll do it? And I was like, okay. So I tell them that I'll do it. So they don't know who, and by the way, because they're like a kind of a environmental organization, they probably were KUOW listeners. If there was any group that would have a vague sense of KU, they were hoping for a Steve Scher.
Sure, yeah, of course. It's so funny that you just even have that you would want to do that. That is the fundamental difference between you and I. Like, I would just be like, no, I don't. Why would I want to?
Because
why would I want to throw myself into this situation?
I think I craved the spotlight in those days, or I craved being near it. I craved feeling like I was somehow like I was a somebody, like I was some kind of a media. I mean, I was very.
It makes sense. It's not. I'm not trying to say like you're in the wrong. I'm just saying that how we're fundamentally different. I mean, it still drives you. Like if you say you wanted to be in the spotlight those days, well, you still do.
I think I want to be
in the
less
spotlight.
I want to be in it less now.
I don't think that is true because you're in it so much that you don't realize. Like,
yeah, okay,
it's normalized for you.
Sure. I guess my feeling around it is, Yes, I think then I had this voracious appetite for having attention paid to me, and then I somehow managed to create a life where there's a fair amount of attention being paid to me over the course of 20 years, and now it feels to me, and I know we've talked about this not that long ago. If that attention went away, I don't know how I would feel. If you ask me right now, I would say I don't actually need any more attention. I'm okay with no attention, But I haven't tested that theory. I will test that theory someday when none of these jobs exist and there's no attention on me. And then I guess I'll find out how I really feel about it. But back in these days, I was like, oh, okay, they're looking for a celebrity from KUOW to come be part of the Oyster Fest. So I show up, and what it was they had laid out, there was I don't know, 5 or 6 of us, and there's just a big thing of ice in front of each person and just a ton of oysters. First, I've also never had an oyster at this point in my life. And by an oyster, I mean, a raw oyster, half shell.
Yeah.
I've never even had that
Sounds
before.
so good right now. Now, I wouldn't want to do it. Is this an eating contest, did you say?
Yes.
Okay, that
oyster
sounds
eating
gross.
contest.
That seems like a terrible oyster eating contest. However, if you and I were just chilling right now at a place like this and we had a dozen of those between us, that sounds amazing.
I think I do like oysters, but I think what I really like is the mignonette sauce. I really love that little sauce that comes with it. And really, the oyster is a way for me to get more of that mignonette stuff. Or I'll go with a cocktail sauce too. I don't care. I'm not fancy. But here was the other kicker. I believe that you couldn't use your hands. So I think the bit was, because they were all laid out. Imagine this is a big thing of ice. The oysters are in it. And I think, if I remember right, I think you had to go down and kind of pick up the shell somehow with your mouth and try to, there was some
I love how
other...
undignified this is. You know what I mean? For something that, it seems like kind of a stand-up organization.
Yes.
It seems so, I mean, even when it was just an eating contest, that's what it seems undignified. But it's also a pie eating contest with your hands tied behind your back, only with oysters. And also you're eating the creatures that you're saving. I don't know.
That part I think is really
weird.
questionable. I'm with you. I think they were trying to create a media. I think they were trying to get some earned media.
Sure.
I think that their hope was we'll get Mayor Norm Rice. We'll get... we'll get Lori Matsukawa from TV. We'll get Steve Scher from KUOW. We'll get John Keister from Almost Live. We'll get a whole assembling of local media or just locally notable people. The local media will show up. They'll film it, and more people will hear about our organization or whatever. But I'm with you. It's weird to eat the animals that are in the ocean if you're trying to preserve the ocean,
especially in a eating contest kind of way, because there's something so obscene about that.
Yeah. So what I do remember was, and this is, again, where I'm ultimately going with this story, Andrew, is I feel exactly the way about Oysterfest as you do about the Burien City Council or whatever it was, the Burien Candidate Forum, because it was so pathetic, because I was so, nobody knew who I was. Nobody cared that I was there. Nobody was excited that I was there. But I also still had this little spark of being like, I have to bring some flair to this. So I must have gotten a heads up that it's going to be an oyster eating contest. What I remember is that I brought swim goggles.
Oh.
So like I had a bit, you know what I mean? Like and they're introducing all the other people. And I remember specifically the guy that won was named Tall Paul. He was from a country station.
Uh-huh.
So it was like Tall Paul. It was like, it might've been somebody from Evening Magazine. It was like other people that were legit kind of like, again, local media celebrities. Like they got some people to show up that when they announced them, like from Kickin' Country, it's Tall Paul, and everyone's like, yeah. And it's like, and it's from Evening Magazine, Penny Legate, yay. They're going down the list, and they're just like from KUOW, Luke Burbank, and I'm like putting on these swim goggles to like try to be funny, and it's like just crickets.
You know, when I said, why would you sign up for this, I kind of misunderstood, and I'm sorry. I was making a really dumb assumption, but I just want to clean this up. I thought they were looking for somebody to be the MC of this, only because of like the stories of me telling Burien and last night. I thought that like you were signing up to be the master of ceremonies, but you were not. You were just signing up to be, which I understand a little bit more. I could see myself being like, oh, okay, that's kind of a fun, weird thing.
Yeah, I was signing up to be one of the celebrity oyster eaters.
That makes sense. I don't know why.
The problem being, I was not a celebrity, and when I got there, I realized pretty quickly like what a mistake this was, because it was just kind of like, and by that I just mean I realized that there was going to be a moment where they were going to say my name, and nobody in the room was going to know who I was, and that's the kind of thing that kills me. I'm okay with like not being famous, as long as no one's ever trying to introduce me as a famous person. In fact, that even happens now sometimes in like a less public way, but like sometimes somebody who's a big, Livewire fan, I'll be somewhere and they'll be introducing me to people as if just any old person just knows immediately, oh, that's Luke Burbank from Livewire, which is, depending on the room, probably unlikely. So there's something about me. It's something about me being presented either by my own decisions, like as in me calling up Soundkeepers and going, hey, can I be the celebrity from KUOW? Or other people doing it where there's this expectation that people know who I am, but then they don't know who I am. That is particularly crushing for me. There's the fact that I brought these goggles because I was thinking that would be a funny bit, and I don't think anyone cared or noticed. The fact that I realized one oyster in, I hate this.
Like, you hadn't even tried, and so you.
I never even had an oyster. By the way, no mignonette.
And you, and you didn't think to yourself like, well, I should try an oyster before I go.
No,
yeah,
no, not a forward-thinking kind of guy. At age 21, or let's be honest, at age 50, I get to the first oyster. Now, can you just imagine the first time in your life you've tasted a raw oyster is in this environment? And again, there's no sauce on there. There's no, like, you're not doing the thing where you got the tiny fork and even better, you pour a little bit of the sauce over the whole thing and you slurp it down. It's none of that. It's just oysters, shucked oysters that I'm just supposed to be going down on. And after the first one, I was like, oh my God, this is horrible. So what I had to do was pretend eat oysters for the next 3 minutes or however long the thing was. And I'm just hearing everyone shouting, yeah, go. And Tall Paul is on like his 14th oyster. I'm just pretending to eat oyster number 2 because I'm like, this is gross. I don't like any part of this. I just wanted to be out of there so badly. Like after oyster number 1, I just wanted to disappear. I wanted to click my heels together and wake up back in Kansas because I realized I'm here. Nobody cares about my goggles. I don't like oysters. I'm not famous. Get me out of here.
Okay, so I was looking for some music to accompany this, but I can't find any on the fly, so I'm just going to read this cold. But pardon me, I had to clear my throat for this. This is not a write-up of the one that you were at, I think. It's too late because it's from 2006, and I don't think that would be your timeline.
Much later. Mine would have been a decade before this.
But this is going to give you some really interesting, to give the listeners, I think, some interesting context that backs up what you've said about this event. I also love the way this is written, so give me some time here. This is from it looks like a blog called West Side Seattle, again, published in 2006, and it's the headline is The Call of the Oysters, 17th Oyster Olympics. Does this ring a bell?
Yes, it was called the Oyster Olympics.
I thought that's why I was pretty confident going into this.
Yes, it was called the Oyster Olympics. Thank you.
I'm not going to read this whole thing, but I'm going to read a big chunk of it. Here's the opening graph. Whether oysters make you salivate or gag, laugh, smile, or get amorous, all you have to do is attend the Anthony's Oyster Olympics.
Anthony's, that's where it was.
Wants to know that oysters are just good, clean fun. Okay, so that's a little setup paragraph. The 17th annual Oyster Olympics, hosted by Anthony's Home Port Restaurant on Shilshole Bay on March 21st, raised almost $40,000 for Puget Soundkeeper Alliance. See, this is how I got here. Okay, so that's attendees enjoyed an outrageous celebrity oyster slurping contest, action-packed competitions between some 20 restaurants, etc. Now, let's get to this oyster. It gives background on the alliance.
Did they
that
list
you gave.
who the celebs were?
Is some of them here. So
okay.
I'm skipping ahead to Anthony's Homeport has been home to every Oyster Olympics since the event's inception in 1990.
Okay.
So that definitely
So
lines
that's
up
where I
with what
was.
you're
So I
saying.
probably wasn't at the
Sometime
Daniels. I
in
was
the
probably
90s,
at
yeah.
this Anthony's over on Shilshole, which is more like Ballard area.
It evolved from the Anthony chain's annual Oyster March Festival. Let's see here. I'm trying to get to the good stuff. Part of every Oyster Olympics is the Celebrity Slurp, notorious as the longest 8-second competition on Earth, because before the slurping begins, each of the celebrity participants must present to the crowd with some sort of oystertainment. Does this ring a bell to you?
I don't think they had Oystertainment in the one that I was in. Thank
That's
God. I tried to bring
Oystertainment.
it. You know what? That's Oystertainment. Andrew, it's possible I invented the idea of Oystertainment
With your
my
goggles.
swim goggles.
That's
Because nobody else had a bit. I know that no one else had a bit. There was no Oystertainment when I did it other than what I brought to the table.
It says Oystertainment comes in the form of little ditties, the odd, and I do mean odd, poem, country, hip-hop, or blues song, and even the Evergreen State College's Geoduck fight song. Did I say Geoduck right?
It's Gooey Duck.
Gooey Duck. I knew as I was
no
saying
reason
that.
for you to know that.
No, I do. That's what bugs me. I do know it, but when I see the word, I can't remember how it's pronounced because it looks like Geoduck. Gooey Duck. Let's see here. Cairo TV's Penny Legate was in Africa this year, but she didn't want to give up her coveted slurp spot, so she sent her husband Mike Williams to fill in for her in drag. And of course, sure about that? Sure about that? That's why?
Sure about that's why you want to do that?
And, of course, there was Seattle PI columnist Susan Painter, who
That's a big one. I think
the
Susan
crowd.
Painter was in the Oyster Olympics I was in.
She graced the crowd with her 2006 revisiting of the Willie Nelson classic adapted for the event called Mamas Don't Let Your Cowboys Grow Up to Eat Oysters. KCPQ TV's Christine Chen. Do you know?
Okay,
Christine
that was a little
Chen?
after my
Yeah,
time.
and I don't know.
I'm guessing an anchor on Channel 13.
It was at Channel 13. I wasn't sure what that was. Won the slurp by downing 10 oysters without the use of her hands. You were right about that. In 8.75 seconds. Last year's
10
winner.
oysters in 8? That's insane.
That's insane. Greg Copeland won last year of Northwest Cable News. He had a disappointing night this time, though he was still able to brag about winning the Nationals in Chicago last October. So anyway, I thought you'd enjoy hearing the celebrities in this, and it verifies a lot of what you said.
Kind of a surprising amount of what, but all of which is to say, like, when I think about that, much like you're thinking about the Burien thing, I am just filled with this just kind of just a pit of embarrassment in my stomach because I just imagine myself there. Yeah, you know, all the stuff I already said. It's just like, it's funny how we have those things that you just kind of like, when you think about them, it's not even a specific memory of any one moment from it. It's just a generalized feeling of like, ugh, God, I wish I wouldn't have done that. But,
well, I mean, the weird thing is, speaking of people making you read their own diaries, like, I know somewhere in the TBTL archives, there are specifics about why I'm so upset about that Burien event. You know, it wasn't until I was just telling you right now that I was like, oh, I don't remember why I'm upset about that anymore or why it's so cringe, which is actually a very sweet thing. Like, maybe I can let it go now. But, I know that I was upset for years and years, and I could have pointed out to you the moments of embarrassment that night. But here's one thing I was thinking about this event that I did last night with Eric. Like, I'm really glad it went well. It's not like it unlocked something in me where I now want to be Mr. Bookstore Interviewer. I don't know. People were nice to me. I don't know if my participation went particularly smoothly or not. I felt relatively comfortable up there. I was interested in the content. Eric's a great talker. All I had to do was set him up a couple of times and let him go, so it wasn't like a kind of a huge deal in that way. But one thing, and this is a really bad lesson for me to learn, whether it was in Burien or just other events that I may be hesitant to go to and I think they're not going to be a good time. There was a time in my life where if I was hesitant to do something, whether it was for fun or for work or something, at the end of the day, I might be really stressed about it, but it would always be worth it. Be like, I'm glad I did that. Like, that worked out. I'm glad I didn't just stay home, or I'm glad I didn't. But then I've just had too many events, and like, I don't know, just kind of like, God, I wish I'd stayed home. Or, I mean, it's not the majority of things, but again, to go to the Burien thing on this is kind of like, what is the upshot of me exposing myself to something that could potentially, rightfully or wrongfully, and it's probably wrongfully, live in my head for decades to come, and only give me moments of embarrassment when I'm just washing dishes at the sink, and suddenly Genevieve says, "Do you know that you made the noise again?" And I said, "What noise?" And she says, "You just did that." And I'm like, "Oh, that's because I was just reliving something from 10 years ago." You know what I mean? Like, what is the upshot of me?
Well, you have
me putting myself out there.
Yeah, because of course the conventional wisdom, the thing that people tell themselves is like, you know, you miss all of the shots you don't take, and like, you know, it's better to be out there in the world and experiencing life than it is to be not. And also, like, I would say that in my experience, for me personally, there are many, many times where I end up doing something, whether it's professional or just going and hanging out with people or just doing things that I'm like ultimately like, well, I'm glad I did that. But the difference is for us is in our wiring, and the fact that for you, something that doesn't, like, for instance, I'm not making that sound about the Oyster Olympics while I'm doing dishes. You know,
should. You will now.
First of all, I've just learned that I invented Oystertainment. So
well,
I have no idea how influential I was.
All you did was wear goggles. You didn't perform. You didn't have a little bit.
It was the seed of the idea. No one else had
love
a
the fact
shtick.
that you didn't even know about Oystertainment 10 minutes ago, and now you are already crowning yourself.
I'm actually
as
updating my Wikipedia page.
Famous Albanians who have invented
Albanians. Oh, inventor of Oystertainment.
Now they don't know how to categorize it. They're now categorizing you under Oystertainment.
What was the other one? Other? That was like mostly convicts and mobsters. But seriously, like, for you, it sounds like the downside of something not going well is that it could quite literally live in your head for the rest of your natural life. And the upside of something going well is that, oh, that just kind of felt good, and I'm happy I'm happy it went okay. But like, again, I don't know. I guess I'm asking, will you? Is there another side to the coin? So that the one side of the coin is the Burien thing that, you know, every once in a while still jolts you with just kind of a feeling of a bad feeling. Is the other side of that coin that you'll just get a flood of good feelings about this event with your friend Eric?
No, that's what I'm saying. And again, it went well, and I am glad I did it. But the only upside of this for me was I'm glad I was able to be there for a friend who needed me to be there. Oh, you know what? I don't know if I'm supposed to say this, but I just will. I think there was some talk early on that he might have been able to get Daniel K. Brown, to the guy who wrote The Boys in the Book. I think I'm getting his name right.
The Boys in the Boat.
Boys in the Boat. Sorry, The Boys in the Book. I think that there was some talk originally about having him be the in-conversation guy with Eric at this because he lives in Redmond, and I don't know where, you know, I don't know how far down the... And so the fact that I was Plan B is pretty incredible. You know, that guy alone would
Well, you wrote The Boys in the Basement.
I wrote The Boys in the Book, as I think I called it that yesterday.
You wrote about the guys who overcame the odds to play darts.
I did, yeah. The boy. Mine is called The Boy in the Basement. Yeah, and it's actually kind of it's a dark comedy, emphasis on the dark. Yeah. But so anyway, like because I don't have anything in me that is a payoff of, I mean, this is just the difference. Like, I don't have something in me that drives me to be on stage in front of people. When we do it for TBTL, it's fun. It's because I do love my job. I like working with you. You do the heavy lifting. I never have to worry about being the first voice on anything. That's a huge part of this, you know? And we go and then we meet people and it's fun. But yes, I'm anxious about it. And then the best possible outcome is I didn't screw it up. You know, I don't leave feeling like, God, yeah, you know, like I don't do karaoke, and it's not because I'm scared to. So many people are like, "Don't be scared." It's like, no, I don't have the drive to do it. I don't have the desire. Yeah. That's not one of the things that motivates me in my life. And so, for something like this, I am glad I did it because I was able to be there for a friend who needed somebody to do this. Especially understanding even more now about like all of the pavement pounding that he's had to do to like kind of make these events successful. I am very happy that they had to bring out extra chairs, that this event was bigger than they were expecting. I'm happy for Eric. I'm not taking credit for that, but like that gives me a really good feeling. But it's not like, now I can't wait to do this other thing, because I'm not walking away with like a jolt of like energy. I'm just walking away of just like, whew, that was a near miss.
Yeah.
You know?
It's like bungee jumping if you're afraid of heights.
Yes.
Like you're relieved that you didn't die,
Yeah.
but you're not just like looking for the next opportunity to terrify yourself.
Yeah, exactly. And it's my understanding, I could be wrong about this, it's my understanding that like, are we now under 2 weeks before we get on a plane and head to a frog jump competition in Ohio that I have not really given enough consideration to because this event has been living in my head a little bit? Yes. So now is sort of like, I'm taking today to like kind of breathe a little bit, and then like I need to really start drilling down on what the hell we need to make this a successful thon in Ohio.
Well, you know what that is.
You know, the only problem here is a big fat brain that misses eating all them big fat problems.
Yeah, maybe it was good. I mean, maybe it was good that like maybe I don't need to obsess over the, whatever. We'll see how
I'll be
it
the
goes.
first person to talk during the thon.
Well, yeah, but I mean, we'll
Pressure's
also see.
off.
Well, my thing about the thon is like, will you have anybody to talk to? Like, will we be streaming to anybody? Will everything work? Will I remember everything? Like,
that's not nothing. But I'm very confident in your abilities for that. So we'll see.
Let the fun begin.
That's not the drop I was trying to play.
I kind of like it. It seemed appropriate.
Hello and welcome to Top Story.
Well, Andrew, when I threw this into the top stories, I think, by the way, you and I were discussing before the show this story about this NPR article that went up, and you and I had sort of different intel on it, and I kind of realized why. By the way, you're absolutely right. This was published sort of accidentally on the NPR website this morning and then retracted very quickly. The New York Times article has been updated. They've added some info to it since I read it this morning at like, I don't know, 7 a.m. or something. And it was very scant. It was kind of like NPR put out an article by Nina Totenberg on its website saying that Samuel Alito, Supreme Court Justice, was stepping down. And then they immediately retracted it and apologized. That was pretty much all of the info. And what I thought I could bring to the table when we talked about it was more context for how I think this happened or why I think it happened. And now they've updated the article, and it's basically, it's not saying it exactly, but it's more or less saying what I thought was the case.
Mm-hmm. Oh, there's even more here now than I read it about an hour ago. Yeah.
Yeah, so they've added, the New York Times, this was, let's see here, this was Benjamin Mullen writing in the New York Times. NPR on Tuesday retracted an article that said that Samuel Alito, Associate Justice of the Supreme Court, had retired. The article, written by veteran Supreme Court reporter Nina Totenberg, said that Justice Alito had announced his retirement. That right there alone, because I think of Nina as being one of the most trusted voices on NPR and one of the most reliable reporters and journalists in America, saying that it was a piece written by her is both true but also, I think, misleading, because I know exactly what happened here. And because Nina Totenberg is a dutiful and organized and forward-looking, unlike me signing up to be a celebrity oyster slurper, and Nina does look down the road a bit and kind of anticipate things. She just has a piece that's written for when Samuel Alito steps down.
Yeah, like an obit.
Just an obit for his job, because this one is that he retired. So she's probably got an obit for all of them, and they retired for all of them.
Yeah.
Although I do feel like maybe she doesn't have them for like Ketanji Brown Jackson or some of the younger ones, because it's like, from an actuarial standpoint, we've got the Clarence Thomases of the world, we got the Alitos of the world, who are, let's just say, less young. But I just, right when I saw this article, I thought, I was almost a little bit annoyed with how the New York Times initially framed it, because it made it seem like, and maybe I'm not helping by playing our bunk journalism sound effect, it's just because that was the only audio I had that seemed relevant. But like, this is very obviously just something where somebody at NPR hit publish on the wrong article.
Yeah, I think so too. That's what
it's not a case of like, it's not a case of, the lying media or like, and that's the other reason that it kind of bothers me, because it's like, this will on some level somewhere just go into the larger narrative that, like, certain people have, that you can't believe NPR. You can't believe the New York Times. And I mean, this is just literally a case. And I almost feel like the New York Times, if anyone would know that, because guess what? The New York Times probably has the Samuel Alito steps down piece pre-written. And then what you do, if you're not familiar, is with this kind of thing, what major news organizations, the Associated Press, NPR, the New York Times, places like that do is they have a lot of these sort of pieces pre-written without the specific details at the top of like exactly when and under what circumstances somebody might have passed away or somebody might have stepped down from their position. And then when it's announced, you can quickly update the very top of the piece, and then you've got something that you can run that's ready to go. This is pretty standard procedure, and this is clearly just they just published the wrong article. But this kind of headline that like NPR retracts, article about Samuel Alito. Apparently, Nina's going to go on ATC today to explain what happened. And
numbers are great, by the way. I mean, isn't that in a certain way like? I haven't had an appointment listening for All Things Considered in a long time. I mean, this is almost like the This American Life where they had Mike Daisy on one week who lied his head off, and then a little bit later did a whole show about how they made a mistake and like had everybody. It was like the best ratings the show had in years, probably.
Somebody from NPR, whoever the latest, I guess Thomas Evans is the new, I say new. Everybody at NPR except Nina is like new, in my opinion, because they weren't there when I was there. Thomas Evans said in a statement that Ms. Totenberg would appear on the radio program All Things Considered Tuesday afternoon to explain what had happened, and that she had reached out to Justice Alito to apologize. Alito needs to apologize for his wife harassing those people in their neighborhood, if you ask me.
Yeah, right.
But, I mean, that's the thing.
Amongst other things.
I know. That like this is like where I just, like, I swear to, as my mom used to say, we can't win for losing. Like, here you got Nina Totenberg, who is, I think, again, one of the most fair and down-the-middle reporters on this. Not, in my opinion, putting her thumb on any kind of a scale around the Supreme Court, even this current Supreme Court that I think is just constantly, and when I say this Supreme Court, I mean the Republican majority, it's just constantly siding with really malign forces and just doing really awful shit. And then and harassing people in their neighborhood about their whatever it was. What was it, like a pride flag or something?
I thought it was about people. I thought wasn't there a Trump flag that people wanted them to take? I can't remember. Flags were definitely involved. It was a flag.
Yeah, it was like Samuel Alito's wife was like mean mugging someone in their neighborhood who had like a trans rights flag up or some kind of a thing, and then they got into a yelling match, and it was just all colored by the fact that like, yo, your husband is a Supreme Court justice. Like, let's just try to keep this whole thing like dignified. But and then it just feels like, and now suddenly we have Nina Totenberg having to apologize to Sam Alito over like a keystroke issue that I don't even think I would be shocked if we're leaving it to Nina Totenberg to publish her pieces on the NPR website. That's got to be somebody else's job.
It was an anti-Trump flag. Anti-Trump lawn signs, it looks like.
Anti-Trump lawn signs.
I knew it had something to do with Trump. I mean,
but I think what had happened was...
But then she like verbally assaulted the neighbors.
Well, and I also think, I think that there was... I think Sam Alito's wife was flying like a weird... like right-wing Catholic flag or something. That's where I think the Alitos had a flag up.
Yeah, that rings a bell too.
And Samuel Alito's defense of it was, I don't know, that's my wife's deal.
They might have been somebody was flying an upside down flag too.
Well, that's the distress flag.
Let's see here. Alito has cited that the neighborhood dispute as the context for the upside down American flag that flew in front of his home in Northern Virginia in the days after the Capitol riot. So anyway, yeah, that gets into the distress signals of the upside down American flag or whatever. We don't have to.
No, it's the Appeal to Heaven flag. This is the issue.
Oh, okay.
They had something called the Appeal to Heaven flag outside of their house, which is
there it is.
It's associated with Christian nationalism and election denial. It was spotted on the couple's New Jersey beach house. So Sam Alito and his wife had this, what is now very much Christian nationally coded flag flying in front of their house, their beach house. And when a justice for the U.S. Supreme Court was asked, hey, how about that Christian nationalist flag? He was like, yeah, I don't know, you got to talk to my wife about that. That's her deal.
Yes. But they also did fly the American flag upside down. The Alitos did after after January 6th, but it wasn't a protest of the January 6th, right? It was in support of what they saw as a national, or what she saw, I should say, as a national crisis, because nobody had stopped Biden from taking office, I believe. So just like a lot of nasty shit. And I mean, and for whatever it's worth, I'm not trying to it's funny how you were like really leaning on the fact that Totenberg is so down the middle, because she was taking some slings and arrows. I mean, I can't remember when she was close. She was close to more justices than just Ruth Bader Ginsburg, but she was really close to her. And then she talked about it a lot after she died and wrote a book about it. And then a lot of people are like, wait, you're covering these people. But you wrote a whole memoir about it. I'm with you. I think that she actually is an old school journalist who does a very good job of like reporting the news. But it's worth just kind of mentioning that as well.
Sure. I guess my point would, my response to that would be, which much like Oystertainment is something I've only learned about 2 minutes ago, which would be like pushback on her friendship with Ruth Bader Ginsburg or whatever. I guess what I would say is, it's one thing for her to be friends with her. When it gets down to just like, what did the Supreme Court say? What did the justices say about this particular case that's in front of them rather? It just always seemed like Nina. This is before they had recordings in the courtroom, of course, and it would just be Nina going, Justice Thomas, why did you say that? Justice Rehnquist, I don't know. It was just it seemed like to me her coverage of specific events within the Supreme Court were so, like, there's almost no way to spin it. It's just saying this is what the decision was from, or this is what the Supreme Court decided on this. Although actually that's kind of off, because they usually have the hearing and then they issue their ruling like way down the road. In fact, they're issuing rulings like left and right today.
Yeah, this always happens I've noticed this. It always happens right before the 4th of July, because it always makes me feel not patriotic on the 4th of July.
Well, it doesn't seem like much is making you feel patriotic these days, which I understand that being a perspective.
But I just mean, like, it always seems like the darkest news comes out like the week before we celebrate this country.
Well, he still has to pay E. Jean Carroll, so there's a glimmer of light in there somewhere. Yeah. But I don't know, just something to me about this idea that like somehow we're always and again, if I'm lumping Nina Totenberg in with the left, then I'm obviously saying she has a political point of view. But it just seems like if I'm going to just kind of group together this big thing that I call our team, and again, I don't know, I'm not the arbiter of what our team is. The idea that somehow our team is having to apologize or has the headline that we've got to retract this article, it just like annoys me that it happened, because there are so many other places, whether it's Fox News or myriad other outlets on the right, that are actively misleading day and night and are not retracting, because it's like they don't hold themselves to the standards that everybody else does, or that the more legitimate mainstream media does. It's just like, it's like the punishment for taking the idea of journalism seriously is that you then have to constantly apologize if the journalism gets screwed up for one reason or another.
When other people are just shitting all over journalism or using journalism in just most irresponsible ways under the guises of journalism. I mean, the state of journalism right now, or what people consider journalism, is just so unbelievably debased that when you see somebody who actually takes this stuff very seriously, in an organization that takes this stuff seriously, has to, overly apologize, I think is kind of what's irking you.
But and then it's also now, it goes onto the list of like, well, you can't trust the media.
Yeah,
it's like, no, you can trust. This is an example of why you can trust the media, because somebody accidentally hit publish on the wrong file, and then immediately they took it down and said, oh, that was our bad. That's why you can trust the media. At least you can trust NPR, because they immediately identified the error, took it down, and apologized for it. But it's going to somehow go on the side of the ledger of, well, they had to retract that story about Alito.
Yeah,
now, it does.
Like, it's more of almost a clerical error, of having it go out. And by the way, one other thing, I just wanted to verify this before I said it, because I thought I'd seen screen caps too. People had screen capped it. And another clue early on that it was just like a kind of a boilerplate ready to go is some of the days were wrong. Like the caption in the photo said that he retired Friday. Other parts of the article said Tuesday. Like those are the parts that you go in and you punch in the updated information on.
It does, however, Andrew, maybe reignite my idea for the next great American novel, which I did try to write many years ago. See, this was back when I had vim and vigor, and I would enter novel writing contests. I entered a Labor Day weekend novel writing contest when I was probably like 25 24, 25, maybe even earlier than that. I think I've told you this story, so I'll keep it brief. But it was, the premise of the book was, there's a guy, his name is Bob Sinclair, and he's like a corporate raider. He's like a very sort of hated guy. He's like known for going in and like, hostilely taking over companies and then firing everyone and then selling, the parts off or whatever. And on the day that Frank Sinatra dies, the Associated Press accidentally publishes Bob Sinclair's obit, and it goes out to all the news because he's famous enough that he has a pre-written obit. And Frank Sinatra is famous enough, of course, that he has a pre-written obit. And on the day that Frank Sinatra dies, because Sinclair is the next alphabetical name on their list, somebody hits the wrong thing at the AP and they publish sort of like a reverse It's a Wonderful Life. It's like, in the sense that George Bailey finds out that if he were never born, the world would be a worse place. This guy finds out that when they publish his obituary, no one is very sad. There is like almost no, and so he has a whole day. This book suffers from the issue of we now have cell phones, so it couldn't really. I mean, there'd be no way for this misunderstanding about this guy's death to persist. But in my little book, he basically like. He realizes that people are basically stoked that he's dead, and he can't prove that he's who he is and that he's alive, and he has a whole day of trying to prove this. And of course, at the end, he has a about face. He sees the error of his ways. The problem with the novel was I also decided that I was going to smoke a pipe while doing this. That seemed very writerly to me.
You're gonna wear goggles.
I literally got a pipe. Actually, I might have been kind of trying to get into a pipe smoking phase because I just thought it was some affect that I decided I was going to maybe adopt. But I'm really bad with tobacco. Like I feel really like I feel real nauseous real easily from because I've just never been a cigarette smoker, and a pipe is like a real lot of tobacco. So I just remember, but it also felt like what a writer. I just remember sitting in my apartment on Capitol Hill, like settling in for this 3-day writing sesh, smoking this pipe and feeling kind of queasy, and then getting trapped for like 40 pages. Somehow it was like this guy, Bob Sinclair, grew up in North Carolina. His mom worked at this diner. We're like doing 30 or 40 pages on the diner and on the okra that they used to like have at the diner. Just like all the stuff that an editor, if you had one, would be like, this is not helping the flow of this book.
Right.
This is like, either don't include this or this could be one page. But I had no sense of like, I just didn't know how to do this at all. I still don't.
Eric,
I didn't think
Eric last night, at the book event, was talking about his process of writing the book or something. I think this was from an audience question. I can't remember exactly what the question was, but he was talking about how when he finally did land the project, his editor said, okay, well, you got to write the first 3 chapters and like send them to me. And so he did that. And he had just been doing so much research. Eric loves research, and there's so much historical research into this book that takes place in 1909. And he said, so I sent him the first 3 chapters, and it was like, the first 3 chapters were something like 30,000 words, and I hadn't even gotten to the starting line of the race yet.
Yeah.
And the editor said, no, this is not how this works. And Eric said,
Let's get to the jokes.
Yes, and as Eric said, he's a journalist, so he takes that kind of feed. He's been edited his whole professional life, so he takes that stuff well and can take instruction well, and then came back with the proper first chapters of the book, and they're like, yes, this is the book that I greenlit here. And
that's
I will
funny
say
that
his
even
book
a guy who's written other books, I presume, and has been
this is his first book. This is his first
really?
Book. Yeah, which I think adds to him.
That would make more
really
sense
prove
then.
himself. But and it is funny because the book does have a really good pace. I think that's one of it's like literally it's about cars traveling across the country. So like it has pace built into it. You know what I mean? Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Do we have an email?
Yeah, I actually heard some voice. Oh, there's one that I think you'll be specifically interested in. I'll play a voicemail for you.
Okay, here we go.
Here I go once again with the email. Every week, I hope that it's from a female. Oh, man. It's not from a female.
Alrighty, emails or emails?
Yes, you were... I was going to say talking, but let's just be honest. You were complaining the other day.
Entertaining. Enterplaining?
You were.
That's when I complain in an entertaining way. I'm enterplaining.
You were oysterplaning the other day.
Yes, another thing I invented.
about the announcements on airplanes, right? And like you and I both bonded over, like specifically, like you're trapped there. You can't leave your seat. You have this squawking speaker over you, and some of the stuff, as you acknowledge, like some of it's legal. You have to, give the pilots and flight attendants and the flight crew have to give certain announcements, but also they spend 5 minutes trying to sell you a credit card, and you can't turn off that commercial that's blasting in your ears above your head from that speaker. So anyway, we got this voice memo from listener Mark, who, as you may remember, is an airline pilot.
Master of transport.
That's right.
Hey, friendos, it's your buddy Mark the pilot calling in because I was just listening to last week's episode in which you were talking about airplane announcements and how annoying they are. I will say, from a pilot perspective, I also find them generally annoying. I used to commute for work and have to try to get a little bit of sleep on my way to Chicago, and the announcements did not help. There's only one that we have to make, and the one that is required by the FAA is that after we turn the seatbelt sign off for the first time, we have to say that when you're seated, you should keep your seatbelt fastened in case we encounter any unexpected rough air. Everything else is not strictly necessary, although the welcome aboard announcement and the we're beginning our descent announcement are usually company policy. As for the flight attendants, I don't know.
Can I jump in here and say the beginning descent, I would consider that one that I want to hear. I mean, you kind of need to know, okay, the flight attendants are going to start telling you to wrap up your laptop and put your chairs.
I can live with that. With
that.
But
and to me that really is okay, now I know where we are, literally how much time we have in this flight. Usually about 20 minutes after that, right? So anyway, go ahead, Mark.
And we're beginning our descent announcement are usually company policy. As for the flight attendants, I don't know what they're required to do outside of their emergency equipment demonstration, which reminds me of your point about the not hearing people say much about your seat cushion can be used as a flotation device anymore. That is because airplanes are categorized by how far over water or away from land they can go. Those categories are based on the kind of equipment that's on board. And the airplane that has the most restrictions uses as a flotation device the seat cushion. So those planes are really only used when you're flying mostly over land, where the chance of landing in water is pretty remote, say when you're going from Chicago to New York and you might land in a Great Lake or something.
So do you follow that? That's almost counterintuitive. So it sort of sounds like the planes that are flying over large bodies of water or near that are going to have other flotation devices, and it's not going to be your seat. So you don't get that announcement. But the ones that are mostly over land, they just have the smaller flotation devices, which is your seat, and that's why you hear that.
So the seat cushion is really not probably the
ideal.
The ideal. And so you're gonna if you're going to Hawaii from Seattle and you're gonna go majorly over water, there's something else in there, so they don't need to announce it because God who knows what. But then even over land, maybe it's only if you're on an overland flight that is also going to cover some amount of water.
Yeah, and probably almost every flight covers a river or something like that. So probably the ones that aren't specifically over large bodies of water, those are the ones, ironically, that are going to have the flotation seats. So you're going to hear that announcement. So, all right, I'm going to let Mark take over.
When you're going from Chicago to New York and you might land in a Great Lake or something. Any other plane that goes further away from land needs life vests on it. And most airlines these days are equipping their planes to do that, since they'd like to use them for more than just domestic travel, whether it be to the Caribbean or to Hawaii or across the water up to Alaska or what have you. As far as the credit card announcements, absolutely everybody hates those. But the flight attendants get a financial kickback for every person they get to sign up for one. So they're kind of motivated by that because they don't really get paid that well otherwise. The finances of airlines in general are heavily dependent on the credit cards and the mileage programs and all that, so much so that we joke that we're not so much an airline as a bank that flies airplanes sometimes. At any rate, we apologize for the inconvenience, and we hope to have you on the ground shortly. Power out.
That is a great power
That's a person
Mark.
Who's done that a couple of times. And
indeed.
see, Mark, I mean, I agree with those things, or I concede that letting people know, hey, we're gonna, be landing pretty soon, and cut hey, can you leave your seatbelt on in case we hit turbulence? All that stuff seems reasonable to me. It's just for me, it's almost more so than the pilots. It's when occasionally you get somebody who is on the one of the flight attendants who you can just tell they really enjoy being on the mic. And again, I don't want to douse their enthusiasm for the job or anything, but it's just like it's for me, it's just really the actual volume of the speakers. Now, I'm about to play a TikTok that I texted myself that I can't figure out if it's the TikTok that I'm trying to play or not, but it's muted. I think this might be relevant to what we were talking about. I'm trying to play one that's someone else complaining about this very thing, which is just random that I saw this week.
Any videos of that Norwegian soccer player?
Oh, no, this is about Erling Haaland.
Which, by the way, I was about to bring that up. I just saw that somebody posted, I'm sad to see that Erling scored a goal or something. So I don't know I haven't been following the World Cup, but I know that's your guy.
He's the guy that I'm terrified of. Yeah. I think this person is just saying that she's also terrified of Erling Haaland. So let me just
I can't watch any videos of that Norwegian soccer player. I can't watch them. He's so scary. He's so scary.
That just made me feel seen that someone else is terrified of Erling Haaland, who, again, for the record, seems like a sweet dude. This is not his fault. I've seen him interviewed, and he actually seems like a really good guy. I just feel like he might step on me and not realize it.
Yeah,
and that would kill me. Like I am just a little ant, and he's a big giant man who could kill me without meaning to.
Going back to these airplane announcement things, this also goes back to something that you and I have talked about on the show before, and it might be a little bit on the edge because some people might enjoy this stuff, like, oh, we're bringing more light into the world or whatever. But like that is why when I see a viral video of like they let some kid sing or rap on the overhead announcer, I don't know, if, anything like that, like shut it down.
Yeah,
shut that down. That is, we don't need that.
Yeah, I think not that I can speak for you. My sense of it though is that like anytime you're trapped in an environment and expected to have a reaction to something, that sets off some pretty uncomfortable feelings for you. I have the same reaction. I think it's not as pronounced, but like definitely, yeah. What was that video of the kid like singing like Frozen or something?
It was something. I was going to say some Disney song. Yeah. Not only that, but it's also just annoying. Like I don't want to hear it. Like I'm glad that you love your kid and that your kid is talented and that you have this thing, but like just subjecting that to I don't know how many hundred people are on a plane, I don't know, whatever. Just like just assuming that everybody knows. Just assuming that how many souls are on this plane, Mark.
that makes me uncomfortable too, by the way.
It's very weird.
Don't call my ass a soul.
Like how is that fair to anybody else? Like it seems like and again, because you're trapped. Like for me it's almost like I don't care. Nobody's looking at me for a reaction in that case, and if they do, I'll give them the finger. I don't know. Like I don't really care. Like I'll grumpy cat him. But it's just like I can't move. Like this is so not right.
Speaking of performances, of musical performances, I don't know if this is going to work for me to play this, but maybe this is how we can kind of wrap things up today. There was an event that happened in Los Angeles that has been living absolutely not rent-free in a bad way. It's just been, I can't stop thinking about it. It was the premiere, I think, of the new Minions movie, which is called like Minions and Monsters or something.
Okay.
And what they did was, what I'm trying to do is find a good video online that presents, some evidence of this. One of the things that they had was a singing competition before the movie premiered, where they had people, a number of young women, singing songs that we know from popular culture in the Minions language.
Okay.
And it's so awesome. It is so freaking amazing. And I really want to find this one particular one of this young woman singing the Jackson 5 song, I'll Be There, as a Minion.
Okay.
Because it's like, I think this is just kind of a supercut. So I want to apologize if this is a little hard to follow. And again, I'm playing it off of Facebook, so I've done a lot of prep for this. But just imagine, I think it's like 4 or 5 young women. They're all kind of look to be in their late teens or like early 20s. They're all dressed very elegantly in sort of like ball gowns, and they're all, part of what's great is they're all taking it very seriously and performing this music. They all have incredible singing voices, but they're singing these famous songs in Minions' voice. Okay, let's see here. Oh golly, what's the deal with Facebook? Oh, you have to hit play and then
play
unmute
and then mute. It's so infuriating.
Okay, this is going to be both. Wait, no. Sorry. Why would you make a video, Andrew, that says these are the Minions performers, and then you would include 1 second of each song, so where the person watching could get absolutely no sense of what the songs are. I'm going to try. Let's see. Minions singing contest.
While you Google this, can I buy you a little bit of time? Now I'm going to be asking you a question, but the question I can slow it down a little bit, buy you some more time. But is it your understanding that the Minions actually have a language like Klingon that fans can learn? Or is it they just talk in a goofy way that people are just sort of riffing here and making sounds like what they sound like?
I learned this today, Andrew, and I apologize to our listeners who are much more immersed in the sort of Minions world if I'm getting some of this wrong, but I think they're calling it like banana language because it's just made up, but there are some words in there that you can recognize, and the banana is one of them.
Okay.
So I think I have now
like
made
Banglish.
Yeah, I think it's exactly. So it's like every once in a while you'll hear a word that is kind of it's familiar, but then the rest of it is just kind of like.
But it's just
gibberish.
riffing, though. Okay, yeah.
It's kind of riffing. So I believe this is the woman who won singing "I'll Be There" in Minions language. Again, I'm playing this off of Instagram, so who knows how this is going to go, but we're going to try it here. Let's see. Okay, stop it. What's the story? Is Instagram the same way? I have to hit play
any
and then
meta thing, anything that is YouTube.
I'm going to be singing "I'll Be There" by the Jacksons.
Okay, so this is the woman who ended up winning.
Song of the summer. The clapping is not on.
What's that?
The clap. They're messing up the clapping, and it's driving me crazy.
Also, you have like the other performer, the other competitors standing with their hands over their hearts. They were like totally in support of each other.
That's
and
so
again,
great.
they all got the memo that the move was to go up and to be hyper serious about the event. And all again, they all had like phenomenal singing voices. I know that was kind of a long climb for a short slide.
No, I really enjoyed that. I liked it. I'm just mad at the people clapping. They were kind of ruining it because they weren't clapping on beat, and it was very sloppy clapping. Who invited you to interrupt that?
It's what I liked about it is unlike when I was in the Oyster Olympics, it was like a stunt that actually worked. You know what I mean? Somebody had the idea. Okay, we're gonna do this big premiere for this Minions movie. What could be kind of fun? And this is like, I should mention, it's in the movie theater before the movie airs. So they're up on stage. I think this was in L.A., somewhere in Southern California. So they're up on stage before the movie starts. It's like a packed house, and then they bring them out and they do this song contest. And it seems very entertaining. The crowd really liked it. And of course, it's getting tons of play on the internet now. So like a lot of times this kind of stuff is sort of, I don't know, kind of tedious or doesn't work. But in this case, I think it was actually very effective for marketing the film.
Yeah, I think so too. And it's different than, they weren't doing that on an airplane. You know what I mean? People were showing up for this. They knew.
Yeah, they were doing it for people who.
Ticket.
Yeah, precisely.
Yeah.
So,
all right, what do you say?
Now, will we get pulled down for having played We get pulled down by I don't know, Motown. Who has the rights to "I'll Be There"?
We're gonna be a pull down for everything. Don't worry about it. We can't worry about actually.
You can't kill what's already dead. So now we should be able to just play anything.
That's absolutely right. You remember your Game of Thrones lessons?
Yes. All right. Thanks for listening, everybody. We are all done for today, but we are going to be right back here tomorrow with more Imaginary Radio. So we will see you then, hopefully. In the meantime, have a great Tuesday. Take care of yourselves, and please remember, no mountain too tall.
And good luck to Banana. I tried.
That was good. Thank you for committing.
Power out.